It is Monday, January 15th, and the Splash Zone is back in your life. I am Matt Modi with my 4 favorite NBA player props for the day. We have been absolutely on fire with these NBA player props recently. Saturday, we went 3-1, up over 2 units. Yesterday, we went 3-0, up over 3 units on our plays yesterday. Just an incredible amount of success that we are having. Yesterday, we cashed James Harden under 8.5 assists, and then we cashed De'Aaron Fox over 28.5 points and Aaron Gordon 15 plus points as well. We also swept our NFL plays yesterday as well, no big deal, but we're just talking about NBA today. So if you rode with me yesterday, it was a great day. On the entire year, that brings our season results. We are up 36.68 units on the entire season with an ROI of 23.60%. Just incredible success that we're having on these NBA player props. I know the cold streak is going to come eventually, but I hope that it doesn't come anytime soon because I want to keep riding this heater. So if you're not already, I would highly recommend subscribing to my YouTube channel because, like I said, we've been on an absolute heater. And then, of course, if you could like the video, subscribe and comment, all that stuff helps me out a ton. But let's get into these picks. We have a ton of day games today in the NBA, so I don't want to dilly-dally here. The first play that we're going to talk about is in the Heat versus Nets game. We're taking Nick Claxton under 13.5 points, -110 odds at BetMGM. So our first play of the day is also going to be our only under play of the day as well, fading Nicholas Claxton. And I got to say, I absolutely love this play. If you look at his most recent games, this is somewhat a fade of recent results, which I do like, which is something that I do try to do. Again, if you look at immediate results, he's gone over this number in 2 of his last 3 games and in 3 of 6. But if you go back a little bit further, you widen the sample size a little bit, it's actually not a fade of recent results as well. The win percentage is absolutely in our favor. Claxton's only gone over this number in 3 of 10 games and in 9 of 28 on the season. So yeah, he's hit it in 2 of 3 and in 3 of 6. Those are the only times he has cashed it in the past 10 games. And again, he's only gone over in 9 of 28 games this season. So absolutely a win percentage in our favor for this one. And even at the -110 odds, a really, really good play. First of all, we got to look at the matchup here. As banged up as the Heat are, and they're perpetually banged up. It's just always going to be the case. Their defense is so good at guarding centers in general. They just don't give up a lot of points to centers, but specifically centers that don't have a huge bag, who are mostly just rim running guys like Nicholas Claxton. According to props.cash, the Heat are the toughest matchup in the NBA when it comes to center point props, which makes sense because if you look at the entire season, the Heat give up the fewest amount of points specifically to centers. And again, it's really centers that have no bag, that are rim running, that are only really threats for lobs and putbacks that just have no success against the Heat. Bam is such a good defender in that regard that those types of guys, they don't have any success. And this is per Courtside Pal, players with Nicholas Claxton's shot profile, which, as I talked about, is only really in the paint as a rim runner, no bag. The Heat give up the fewest amount of points per game to players with that type of shot profile, which makes sense based on everything we said. So fading Claxton is the way to go here. Hopefully he doesn't score, which makes him come through for us, cashing our underplay. Next up, Spurs versus Hawks game. Victor Wembanyama, 20 plus points, -125 odds at ESPN Bet. Now we're going to get to some overs. And I know it's not a plus money banger, and I don't usually love the -125 odds, but the reality is these -125 odds on ESPN Bet are so good that I decided to take it as is, as opposed to pumping it up to a higher number. Both books that price this have it at -145 odds. Every other book prices his point total above this number. And this is also something where I'm laddering Wemby to go up to 25 points as well. So for our first play, which was an underplay, we were fading a really tough matchup. This is basically the opposite of that, taking an incredibly juicy matchup for Wembanyama against a terrible, terrible Hawks defense. So despite the fact that Wemby is like 7'4", his offensive profile more aligns with forwards that can shoot both from deep and in the mid-range, and that can attack the rim. So he does not have the shot profile as a traditional center, more so as a power forward. And these types of forwards have a lot of success against the Hawks. As I mentioned, their defense is terrible. It's a total joke. Wemby, technically listed as a power forward, Props.cash lists the Hawks as the second easiest matchup in the NBA when it comes to power forward point props. And to take it even further, with a player such as Wemby's scoring profile, shot profile, which again is more so of that as of a forward, the Hawks give up the third most points per game to someone with that shot profile. And similar to the Claxton play, this is not a situation where we're fading recent results. Wemby has actually been on fire. Generally, that makes me a little bit nervous because the cyclical nature of the NBA, I like to fade recent results, but backing Wemby despite all that is the play here. He's gone over in 6 of his last 7 games, and funnily enough, 6 of the last 7 power forwards against the Hawks have gone over their point total over under as well. That includes bench guys, starters, studs, whatever. 6 of the last 7 have gone over their point total over under against the Hawks. So the over is the play here. Hopefully Wemby can come through for us, cashing our second play. Next up, our third pick of the evening in the Pacers versus Jazz game. Colin Sexton over 20.5 points, minus 102 odds at FanDuel. So I know I generally like to pump up plays and find a bunch of plus money bangers. That just wasn't how the board fell today. So this is our third non-plus money banger of the day. Another play that I really like. I'm going to go ahead and ladder Sexton up to 25 plus points as well. And first of all, look, the Jazz have just been on fire. Those of you that have been following the NBA closely know this. They've gotten up to 500 and are now actually in the play-in in terms of the West playoffs. And what has coincided with the Jazz playing well is Sexton has been also playing really well. If you're looking at his entire season, yeah, the win percentage is not going to be in our favor. He's only gone over this number in 12 of 41 games, but you got to look at a more recent sample size. He's gone over in 6 of his last 10, which again does coincide with the Jazz hot streak. In one of the games that he went under, he scored exactly 20 points. And in another game, he scored exactly 19. So that's 8 of 10 games where he's hovering right around this number. Yes, those still count as unders, but we're forward thinking here, and that type of success generally will bode well. And I'm sure you guys could have guessed it. This is another incredible matchup against a very bad Pacers defense. Now, I will admit the defense has gotten better over the past month or so. They were like the worst in the NBA in terms of defensive net rating. Now they're the 5th worst. So congrats to them. You're no longer the worst. You're only the 5th worst. But they still get killed by these types of players. Point guards who are explosive, who can attack the rim and draw fouls, who also can shoot a little bit as well. Even with the Pacers' better defensive play recently, they still give up the most points in the game, most points per game in the paint specifically in the entire NBA. And Sexton has shown the ability to torch defenses that struggle at guarding point guards. 27 against the Lakers, 25 against the Pistons, went over against the Sixers, went over against the Pelicans. These types of teams that aren't great against these types of point guards, Sexton has shown the ability to come up big against. So I think that's going to happen once again tonight, cashing our third play. Next up, fourth and final pick of the evening. We're going back to the Spurs versus Hawks game, and we're taking Clint Capella over 12.5 points, plus 125 odds at Bet Rivers. This is also plus 115 at ESPN Bet because Bet Rivers sucks and you don't use them like I do. And yes, we're going back to the Spurs Hawks game. And finally, a situation A, where we're getting a plus money banger, and B, where we are absolutely, no question about it, fading recent events. Now, technically, Capella's main line here is over under is 11.5. I decided to pump it up just 1 point to 12.5 because we're getting significantly better odds. Now, obviously, it's less likely to hit, so there's a reason why we're getting better odds. But the better value compared to the sports books was at the over 12.5 number, which is why I decided to take it there. And this is going to be scary. This is our Pepto play of the day. It's going to feel gross going down. Capella's gone under in 8 of his last 10 games, including 7 straight. Granted, 2 of those games, he scored exactly 12. And another time he scored 11. So it's not like he's always been pretty aggressively under, but he kind of has been recently. The past 4 games, he's had single digits, which isn't great. That also makes me like this overplay even more. Prior to this 7-game under streak, he had gone over in 8 of 9 games. The perfect example of what a typical NBA season is like. Highs and lows. Generally, when things start to go one way, they start to bounce back the other way. So that's kind of another reason why I like Capella tonight. And this is also, as you can guess it, the 4th matchup that is juicy for the play that we locked in. You can consider the Spurs basically the opposite of the Heat. The Heat give up the fewest amount of points per game to centers. Specifically, rim running centers, the Spurs are the opposite. They are the best possible matchup for rim running centers like Capella. They give up literally the most points per game to players that have Capella's shot profile. Again, that is per Courtside Pal. So great opportunity for Capella to bounce back and come through for us tonight. That's all we got. 4 plays for you guys to lock in. I know I went through this pretty quickly, but the games start so early, so I didn't want to mess around. Hopefully you're able to get some of these plays, lock them in, and tail with me. If you are riding with me, make sure to comment and let me know. Other than that, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Appreciate everybody for watching, and have a good one.